Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnu Paramahamsa Paribhakchar Shishi Madhi Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namachar Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prema Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Jai Dvaita Gadadhar Shiva Siddhi Gaur Bhaktivinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopanath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dhama Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. All glory simple devotees. All glory simple devotees. All glory simple devotees. All glories to Shishi, Guru, and Gauranga. Okay, so we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th canto, chapter 18, text 30 through 32. So I'm going to just read the translations, the first two verses, and we'll chant together verse number 32. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, text number 30. When Sukracharya gave Devayani in marriage to Yayati, he had Sharmista go with her, but he warned the king, "My dear king, never allow this girl, Sarmishta, to lie with you in your bed." Text 31. O King Parikshit, upon seeing Devayani with a nice son, Sharmista once approached King Yayati at the appropriate time for conception. In a secluded place, she requested the king, the husband of her friend Devayani, to enable her to have a son. Okay, so now we're going to recite from the 32nd verse. Okay. Raja Prutrar Yato Patye Dharma Cha Vikshya Dharmavit Smaran Chukra Vachakale Dishtam Eva Bhyapadyata. Somebody could chant. Mataji's? Okay, word for word. Rajaputraya Sarmishta, who was the daughter of a king. Artitaha, being requested. Apatye, for a son. Dharmam, religious principles. Cha, as well as. Aveksha, considering. Dharmavit, aware of all religious principles. Smaran, remembering. Sukravachaha, the warning of Sukracharya. Kale, at the time. Dishtam, circumstantially. Eva, indeed. Apyapadyata, accepted, to fulfill the desire of Sarmista. Translation. When Princess Sarmista begged King Yayati for a son, the king was certainly aware of the principles of religion, and therefore he agreed to fulfill her desire. Although he remembered the warning of Sukracharya, he thought of this union was the desire of the Supreme, and thus he had sex with Sarmista. Purport. King Yayati was completely aware of the duty of a Kshatriya. When a Kshatriya is approached by a woman, he cannot deny her. This is a religious principle. Consequently, when Dharmaraj Yudhisthira saw Arjuna unhappy after Arjuna returned from Dwaraka, he asked whether Arjuna had refused a woman who had begged for a son. Although Maharaj Yayati remembered Sukracharya's warning, he could not refuse Sarmista. He thought it wise to give her a son, and thus he had sexual intercourse with her after her menstrual period. This kind of lust is not against religious principles. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 7:11, Dharmam vriruto bhuteshu kamosmi. Sex life not contrary to the principles of religion is sanctioned by Krishna. Because Sarmista, the daughter of a king, had begged Yayati for a son, their combination was not lust, but an act of religion. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Bastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharne Nirvasesa Sunyavari Vaskachate Shatarne. So as is mentioned here in this purport, that if a woman approaches a Kshatriya for a son, then he cannot refuse her request. But there's also other things that are to be taken into consideration. Just like when a Samba in the Krishna book is mentioned, when he kidnapped Lakshmana by force, he wasn't inclined to him, but he kidnapped her by force. And the Kurus, they arrested Samba, but they did not kill him because they could understand that because Samba had already touched Lakshmana, that she could not be accepted by anybody else. So this is also a principle of Vedic literature. It's not that Kshatriya would accept anyone, but there were certain other qualifications that are also required. So in here, Prabhupada mentions sex life, which is not contrary to religious principles. Krishna says, I am that. So that is sex life within marriage. Outside of marriage, that is irreligious. So, so those who engage in propagation of Krishna-conscious children, they are known as human beings. They are known as the twice-born. And those who simply engage in sex life for enjoyment, they are known as Sudras or less than Sudras. So this is one of the qualifications of the twice-born. So in these principles of procreation, there are many rules and regulations. Sex life is only allowed once in a month, and there's no sex life during pregnancy and also until the child is at least 6 months old. So there's restriction. And with all these restrictions, one will eventually think that what's the use of all this, and he'll just give it up like that. So when there is a restriction, we can understand that it's not a good thing. Just like Prabhupada gave the example, there's no restriction on chapatis like that. You could eat chapatis. But there's other restrictions on intoxication, on sex life, because these are not a good thing. So anyway, there's different ways of understanding this. And so so this Garbhadam Samskara is recommended. There's a ceremony where one chants Hare Krishna, and Prabhupada says, especially for the Brahmanas or the twice-born, there's a big ceremony, and the Brahmanas come, and the friends and relatives, and they give their permission for the couple to have children. So it's not a secret affair, it's an open affair. And this is how human beings engage in activities. But in this age of Kali, it is stated that everyone is a Sudra. Srila Prabhupada explains that Kalo Sudra Sambhava, everybody is a Sudra because this Garbhadam Samskara is not being performed. So if the Garbhadam Samskara is not being performed, then automatically the family becomes Sudra, the children become Sudra. So Prabhupada also explained that in the medical laboratories, it's been analyzed that there's different types of blood according to the different castes like that. So the Brahmana blood, Kshatriya blood, Vaishya blood like that. And by maintaining these various samskaras, such as the Garbhadam samskara and these various other samskaras, then the blood remains pure like that. But otherwise, if they don't observe these things, then it becomes impure. So these ceremonies are very important to keep the purity in human society and to maintain the various varnas. And this way, society will go on very peacefully. But because nobody knows what varna they're in, there's so much chaos and confusion in society. They do not know what they are or what they should do. And in this way, it's very difficult for people to become Krishna conscious with so much disturbance. So this is, these things are give people preliminary help to make their mind peaceful so they could engage in spiritual life. So, so in this way, perform this Garbhadam Samskara, and not to produce cats and dogs, but to produce saintly persons. Like Prabhupada said, if one can produce brahmacharis, then one could produce hundreds of brahmacharis, but not cats and dogs. So, and also by producing children, Krishna conscious children, then they can deliver their forefathers, their parents, if they happen to fall into an inauspicious situation like that. So that's the meaning of to get married, is to have a son. Actually, Prabhupada said this is the only purpose of marriage, is to have, he wrote that one letter to Donavir in December of '72, that the only purpose of marriage is to have the facility for sex life, to have children. Otherwise, what is the use of accepting so much botheration? So this is the purpose of marriage life, to have a son, to deliver his forefathers. So there's various rules in marriage. Just like we were reading not too long ago in the Bhagavatam about having horoscope done. So this is recommended to find out what the taste and character of the couple is in order to see that they're properly matched. But in this age of Kali, marriages is just considered in terms of sex life. If that's the basic or the only consideration, and therefore there's so much argument and divorce. But in Vedic culture, the character and taste was the main consideration, which was understood at least one of the ways by astrology, and other considerations were less important. So by horoscope, and also by the proper match of the couple, like Prabhupada wrote a letter to Hamsaduta in 1970. He said that the boy should be at least 5 years older than the girl. Otherwise, it's not hygienic. And he said that, and otherwise the boy will become weak. Will be weaker, and there will be daughters, and it will become still weaker like that. So the proper age is also important, and also how old the couple are in terms of like Prabhupada mentioned, in his life he was very young. He was a young man. He was 22. His wife was 11 years old. And in that way, it's easy to adjust things like that, because when we get older, then it's hard to adjust things. We have a way of doing our own things. But when you're young, just like probably the example of bamboo, he said like green bamboo, you could easily bend it, but when it becomes yellow, it's hard to bend like that. So in this way, marriage is recommended when one is young, like that. So also during the time of marriage, there is, they also consider the family in terms of if there's any connection, because you have to marry outside your family. So in this way, they would check at least, go back at least 7 generations. And if there was any, if the families would collide anyway, then there wouldn't be no marriage. They had to make at least 7 generations back. Otherwise, Prabhupada said you could marry your sister. So you have to make sure that there's a difference in the family. So this marriage ceremony is in Vedic culture. Even among the Sudra class, there's it's stated that the Sudras, there's so many samskars. There's 10 different types of samskars. There's the Garbhadam samskara, and the offering the child food for the first time when he's 6 months old, and you chant various mantras, and you have fire sacrifice, and the cutting of the hair for the first time, and initiation, of course, which is very important, accepting a spiritual master. But amongst all those different types of samskaras, the Sudra is specifically required to get married, the Vivaha samskara. So this, even for the Sudra, this marriage ceremony is very important, although they may not perform other types of samskaras. So during the marriage ceremony, there's different mantras that are performed, and the father, it's the duty of the father to get his daughter married. So this is an obligation the father has, and it's a debt or obligation he cannot relinquish. Just like when Prabhupada said, when his daughter became Prabhupada said he married his daughter when she was 16, and at that time he was very much anxious to get his daughter married. And so this is an obligation, and during that time also the father offers a dowry to his daughter, because the daughter does not inherit the estate. So at the time of her marriage she is given a dowry, and Prabhupada mentioned at that time that it was a system that you give the daughter a gold. I think it was in jewelry. You give her gold and at least 50 tolas of gold, which Prabhupada said comes out to 20 ounces of gold, like that. And then the other relatives would also give gold. The father-in-law and the different relatives would give like another 20 ounces. So in this way, she would be given 40 ounces of gold, which in today's market is it's a little over $1,000, so she would be given like $40,000 just in gold, like that. And this was her property. It's called Stri Dana. It's not to be touched by anybody else. The husband can't touch it. The sons can't touch it. Only when she dies, it's shared among her daughters, like that. Prabhupada mentions that. But we see in this age of Kali that even the dowry of the wife is being taken away. Prabhupada mentions in connection with Sati and Lord Shiva, how when she went to see her father at the sacrifice, she had her ornaments that she was given at the time of her marriage. But Prabhupada mentions we find that sometimes the husband takes the ornaments of his wife and spends it for smoking ganja and similar activities. So this is going on, and Prabhupada also mentions in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that he says we have personally seen that the father has stolen the jewelry of his own daughter. He says that necessity knows no law. So this is very much condemned, but in age of Kali all these things are going on. So one may say that, oh, how can a poor man afford such a thing? But this is not, even if Prabhupada explains in the Bhagavatam that even once a poor man, if one simply gives a fruit or a flower, this will be accepted, like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. If one simply gives me a leaf or water, fruit, I will accept it. And so in this way, if a poor man doesn't have much to give as a dowry, he can simply give a fruit or flower and it will be accepted, like that. So there are different, Prabhupada explains that women should be dressed in a certain way that men will know who they are in terms of their situation in life. For the married women, they put kumkum in the parting of their hair. Formerly this was done for the Kshatriyas. The Kshatriyas would kidnap the princess and there would be a fight and there would be bloodshed, and he would put red the blood and the parting of the wife's hair, but we make it easy, we just use kumkum. So this is a sign of a married woman. She has a kumkum in parting of her hair, and Prabhupada mentions she wears a red dot on her forehead, and she also covers her head with her sari like that. And those who are unmarried, they don't cover their head. But a married woman covers her head. And those who are from different sections of society, probably like the prostitutes, they don't part their hair down the middle, they part it on their side. So that's a sign of a prostitute. And those women who are widows, they don't wear any jewelry, they simply wear white cloth. And those women whose husbands are not at home, they don't decorate themselves very nicely. Just like we read in Krishna book that at the time of Krishna's birth, Rohini, generally she didn't dress herself very nicely, but when Krishna was born, that she decided she would like to decorate herself very nicely. So generally, when the husband is not at home, the women don't dress very nicely or very opulently like that. So this marriage is very important in society, but because there's so much intermingling of the sexes in the age of Kali, there's the attraction for them is not so great. Like formerly, there wasn't men and women want to intermingle with each other, and so when they came together, when they actually came together, then that attraction that they naturally have becomes very strong. That attraction or that knot in the heart becomes very strong, and therefore it was very easy for them to stay together. But in the age of Kali, because of so much intermingling, the men are mingling with so many women, and the women are mingling with so many women and so much men, and men with women, that knot is very much slackened. And even though they become married later on, since that attraction is not so strong, there are cases of disagreement and divorce. So it's very important that people practice these principles of religion, and this way good children will take birth. Otherwise, without good children, if there is varna shamkara, then it will create a hellish situation in the world, and there will be so many wars and so many disturbances. So this is very important in human society. So this marriage, for men, it's stated that marriage or association with women is an unnecessary burden that checks self-realization. So for men, as much as possible, they should avoid a marriage. But if the Guru sees that this is not possible, then he will see that his disciple gets married like that. So it has to be judged. One shouldn't be artificial, and probably explains one shouldn't become a bachelor daddy like that. One shouldn't be artificial. But for women, it's different. Prabhupada says, like same letter he wrote to Prabhupada wrote to Donavir in 1972. He said, if a woman, it's very difficult for a woman to make spiritual advancement if she doesn't have a husband. So this is natural for a woman to have a husband, and they make spiritual advancement by having a husband. And he mentioned in April of 77 in a conversation, he said that for a woman to be a brahmacharini is artificial. He has said that they will not be able to maintain that. So this is very important. Marriage is very important. And to have nice children is very important. So we have these different statements that sometimes it's stressed that marriage is very good. You could have nice children in Krishna consciousness. And other times it's stated that this is just give up everything. This is just sense gratification. So what to do? Prabhupada says, Krishna explains. He says, you should perform your prescribed duty. But he also says, abandon all varieties of religion, just surrender unto me. So the problem explains that there's no contradiction in these statements, but it's based on time and circumstances. So we have to understand what the time and circumstances is and act accordingly. So, so in society, this is very important. The children, it's not only produce nice Krishna conscious children, perform these samskaras, but also they have to be trained, and they have to have proper schooling. Like Prabhupada mentions, when they're between 5 and 10 years old, they should go to the Gurukula, and then from 10 to 12 years old, they should go to the Varnashram college. So this is proper training. Otherwise, if by simply performing the samskaras, if they don't have proper training, then it's very difficult for them to become serious in Krishna consciousness. It's very difficult for them to become initiated and accept a spiritual master. So this is very important. This training is very important. So we have to do this. We have to emphasize this. We have to have our schools, and we can't expect to send our children to regular schools and expect that they'll won't become badly influenced by the material energy, because that's the nature of the material energy, simply to degrade one. So, everybody needs a good association, and especially the children. They could easily become molded. Prabhupada said, just like in a mold, you can mold them any way you want. So if you give them good instruction, then they can become nice devotees. But if they get bad association, then they come out bad. So we have to give them this good education. So, and we could see in society there's so many social problems, especially with this marriage life, so many problems in society, so many difficulties come. But we could also understand, and when we think, well, how could we deal with all these things? It's so difficult. But actually, our real problems are birth, death, disease, and old age. Not eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. These are our real problems. And if we focus on those problems, how to solve those problems, then automatically we will understand how to solve all these other problems. Just like if you have $1,000, then all your $10 problems are solved. So by becoming serious in Krishna consciousness, by accepting the instructions of the spiritual master, by hearing whatever instructions he has given us, accept those, then we will understand how to do everything else. And just depend on Krishna for the results, you know. That's all we have to do. So this is Krishna consciousness. Unfortunately, we left the spiritual world. We misused our independence. We forgot Krishna. And Maya's there trying, she's giving us a good lesson that you want to enjoy this material world, I will give you such happiness that you can enjoy this material world. So she's giving us a good lesson. And if we're intelligent enough, we'll understand that. But if we are rascals, then no matter how much we get kicked in the head, we will never understand. So we could stop there. Are there any questions or comments on any of these points? Okay, thank you very much. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga.